Hello, everyone. Welcome. Good morning for some of you, maybe good afternoon or good evening for others. My name is Alex, and I'm the Global Challenge Coordinator at Hello Tomorrow. So welcome and thank you for joining this Ask Me Anything session dedicated to the Global Challenge. The idea today is to cover the key information about the challenge, such as the timeline, the criteria, and what value it can bring you. But first, I'd like to introduce to you our special guest, Samantha Anderson, co-founder and CEO at Depoli, who was one of our finalists last year. Hi, Samantha. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you so much. And thanks so much for having me here today.
Thank you for joining this session. So I'm sure like all the startups are eager to know more about your experience with the Global Challenge, and they have a lot of questions for you. But first, I will start with a short presentation of the challenge, and then I will let Samantha share her team's experience. And lastly, we'll open up for a question and answer, so you can ask us all your questions. Just to explain to you a little bit more about the tool, you don't need to wait until the end to interact with us. Let me explain a little bit more about the platform, how the platform works. So on the right-hand panel, you'll see a message tab where you can chat with each other and with us. So we know that you're connecting from everywhere around the globe. So feel free to say who you are and where you're connecting from. There is also a question tab. Feel free to ask any question during the session and also like the questions that you think are relevant. In the Q&A later, I will start with the ones who have the highest votes, and then I will continue with the rest and try to answer everything. So let's dive into the Global Challenge. At Hello Tomorrow, we've been organizing the Global Challenge since 2014, and this year is the 9th edition of the competition. So our main goal with the challenge is to support early-stage startups that are developing pioneer solutions to address our world's toughest challenges. But first, why and who can apply to the Global Challenge? So first, your innovation, whether it's a product or a service, must be based on a new technology, a scientific discovery, or a complex engineering process. We cover all industries and technology, from aerospace to environment or to healthcare. So it's really open to anybody as long as it's deep tech solutions. So on the side, you can see the 10 different tracks that we have this year, which are quite similar to the ones from last year. You must also be in the early stages. For us, that means startups who have not yet incorporated, up to those who have raised up to a maximum Series A funding round. So if you're just starting to look for your first clients or your first investors, then you're probably a great fit for the competition. And then lastly, your solution should be addressing an important challenge that we are facing today, whether it's in our environment, our society, or within a specific industry. So as you know, applications are currently open and the deadline is September 22nd, so next Friday. It's always a good idea to start your application as soon as you can, so you can get an idea of the questions that we ask and then have time also to revisit the application and make improvements if needed. Once the application closes, we'll review all of them, so starting from September 22nd, and then contact all the selected deep tech pioneers by mid-November. You might be wondering, what are the deep tech pioneers? So these are the startups that have fulfilled criteria for the challenge and that have been considered by the jury as among the best one in their categories. So each year we select around 700 startups as this deep tech pioneer. If you're selected as a deep tech pioneer, this means you get exclusive access to our events and you also join our community and have access to all the perks available all year round. But I'll share more about it later. To continue with the timeline, then out of all those deep tech pioneers, we will select the finalists of the Global Challenge. And there will be 60 finalists, so around 6 finalists per track that I showed you earlier. And they will be announced in mid-January. These 60 selected finalists will be invited to pitch during the finals of the challenge, which will happen during our Global Summit in Paris on March 21st and 22nd, where we have more than 3,000 key players from the deep tech industry to meet. And of course, the day before, on March 20, we will also be hosting the Investor Day, an event during which startups and investors can meet and network. Again, Deep Tech Pioneer can access both of these events. But why should you apply? So our aim is really to get at the heart of the needs of early stage startup. So we focus on answering these three key needs: connection, visibility, and funding. So one of the main things that we offer are connections amongst our really relevant network. In this network, we have investors, large companies, fellow deep tech startups, and you'll have the chance to make valuable connection with these actors during the Global Summit, as well as all year long, which could lead you to business and funding opportunities. Or it can even help you find your key team members, like one of our previous participants who found their CEO at the summit. So if you're selected as a winner, we will also award you with an in-kind prize consisting of personalized one-to-one coaching session, plus personal introduction with potential investors, partners, clients, etc. We also offer startups global visibility. First of all, you'll receive the Deep Tech Pioneer label, which means that you've been recognized by us as a top startup in your industry on an international scale. Then during the Global Summit, the selected finalists get to pitch on a stage in front of an audience of 400 people. And at the same time, Deep Tech Pioneer have a chance to also showcase their technology in a dedicated exhibition area during the summit. And then, of course, there are financial perks. We offer 3 winning prizes: the 100K euro grand prize, the 30K second prize, and 20K third prize. But even if you don't win, you'll still have access to funding opportunity through our Investor Day, and you'll also be able to advertise your open fundraising any time of the year to our international investor network. So how should you prepare your application for the Global Challenge? First of all, it's really important to mention that your startup will be evaluated strictly on what you submit on your application form. So it's important to make sure that it is complete and that you put as much information as needed. We won't do any additional forms after the first selection or interviews before we select the finalist. So you should really include the necessary detail in the initial form so that we have all that we need to do the evaluation. To select the Deep Tech Pioneer and the finalist, we have 4 different criteria that you see here, and each of them are weighted equally. So the first we look at is the technological innovation. So once again, since it's a deep tech competition, we're looking for innovation in technology, and not only from a business point of view. To demonstrate this, of course, you need to provide a complete description of the technology, but the description alone is not enough. We also need some kind of external proof on how novel and realistic your technology is. Some proof you could include, for instance, are patents, publication, KPI, etc. The second criteria is the impact. As I've already mentioned this before, it's important to stress that we are looking to see that your technology aims to have a positive impact on your industry or on society as a whole. We're not necessarily looking for impact at a global level, but the impact should definitely be large scale. Third criteria, we evaluate the startup economic viability. Here, we need to see that you are targeting a market which is sufficiently large, that you have a relevant and convincing business model, and that you also have a clear competitive advantage. Obviously, the content that you provide here could vary according to your maturity. But even if you're a really early stage startup who aren't yet commercializing, or you don't have a prototype, we do need to see that you've thought through the business aspect, that you know your market that you'd like to target, and the market that you like to address. And then the fourth criteria, we look at the makeup of your team. So first of all, there needs to be a minimum of 2 people in your team to be eligible. Then on the application, we ask for some information about your founders and other key members. Why is that? So the goal is really to demonstrate that your team or your current network have the relevant experience and the complementary expertise. So it means scientific or technical expertise, as well as industry and business expertise. So those are the criteria to keep in mind when you complete your application, because we will evaluate yours according to these 4 criteria. So make sure that you fulfill all this category before submitting your application. So now I'll move on to the next part of the session, and I will give the mic to Samantha so that she can explain briefly her experience during the Global Challenge last year.
Thank you so much. So hi, I'm Sam. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Deeppoly. We're a Swiss startup, and we were recently at the Global Challenge last year. So first I'll walk you kind of through who we are and what we do, and then the experience. So what we are doing is we're tackling the plastic problem. Right now, basically anything that gets recycled has to be pure, perfect plastic, for example, like a PET water bottle. But if it's mixed with other plastics, if it's blended fabric, so if you think of something that's like cotton polyester blended, or it has hardware in it, anything that's complicated typically ends up either in landfills or incineration centers. It depends on where you are in the world. Here in Europe, they incinerate mostly everything. I'm actually originally from Canada, and we landfill. And then it gets shipped around the world, it gets illegally dumped. So there's a lot of problems associated with the current recycling system. So what we did, and where this startup kind of came from, was this problem that the recycling system doesn't work and it pollutes the environment. So we developed a chemical recycling technology that allows us to break down plastics like PET to their main raw materials using low temperature, no pressure systems. And then we can sell the raw monomers, so the PTA and MEG from the PET that comes out, back to companies. This can be sort of like commodity sales, but it can also be converted back to our PET and then turned into a t-shirt or a bottle. Really depends on kind of the customers and the part of the value chain that we're working with. We originally started in 2018. This was the 3 of us. These are my co-founders. We spun off, and then in 2020, we officially formed the company just before COVID. We went into a fundraising mode because no one could go into the labs. We couldn't really do anything at that point. We did our financing for the pre-seed. We went into the Global Challenge as a finalist. And then the same year, so I think maybe like a month or 2 after, we actually fully closed our 12.3 million seed round, which and Hello Tomorrow generated so much interest. We were already in a fundraising round, so being able to network with investors was perfect for us. Just in general, I guess where we are, expanding team. We have now we're 19 employees. We'll be hopefully 25 by the end of the year. And then in terms of size and where we are, to put kind of everything into perspective from the intro presentation, we have a proof of concept plant right now that is a 50 ton per year plant, and we're now scaling this up to 500. So we are in the proof of concept side of everything. We don't have binding contracts. We're not bringing in continuous revenue. But we do have revenue that is incoming, and we do have a team that is expanding and growing as we speak. So when we were at Hello Tomorrow, we were one of the 7 finalists. We didn't win the track, but actually, to be completely honest, we had such a good time there, and we had such a fantastic networking opportunity with the investors and with the pitch that just being there was worth it. Just being able to have that direct face-to-face conversation with investors actually gave us such a leg up in the final moments of our fundraising that it occurred at like the perfect time for us. I would say that when you are going in and when you're doing all of this, be prepared. It looks like it's a small event, but it's actually massive and everybody gets booked up super fast. So use the networking tool, go to the networking days, get your list of investors, start early because everybody starts talking to these guys really fast and their schedules get really busy. Go to have the conversations. And then if you're at the networking stuff and you see them hanging around and there's nobody at their table, you can still also take that opportunity to go up to them and chat. We actually made some really good conversations with investors that I didn't think I could get a hold of because they didn't respond on the app. But I saw like a 5-minute gap where there was nobody sitting at their table. And it's a really convenient time to just sit down, say hi, drop a business card. And then if they're interested, usually it's really easy to get a follow-up after that. I don't really know what else to say other than just absolutely praise the event. It's something that we still talk about. I think it's one of the best events in terms of like a startup day that we've really ever been to. There's nothing that compares. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys have. I know it's a really quick introduction. There's probably tons of questions sitting in the back of your heads that I had that I completely forget. Maybe we can start from there and yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much, Samantha. I think it was really great to have your point of view, especially for me who has not been yet to the event, and I'm looking forward to it. So now let's get into the Q&A session. So again, if you haven't already, you can ask the question on the panel tab, and then I'll try to answer as many as possible. So first one from Farid, when are the grand winner announced? So the grand winner will be announced during the global summit after all the finalists speech. Then they will be announced the second day of the summit. David, does being selected include travel and attendance at the global forum? So if you're selected as a deep tech pioneer, it will mean that you will have exclusive access to the global summit. So the ticket will be free of charge for you. However, because there are a lot of you, and unfortunately, we cannot cover the travel and housing expenses for you to come to Paris. We will only cover the price to enter the global summit. Then I have one from Siena. Can one member represent the company, or do all members have to come to the summit? Of course, you can only be one person joining to the summit. You don't have to come with the entire team. No problem if you're the only one representing it. Anyway, if you're selected as a finalist, if you pitch during on stage and it's very, very short, there will probably be only one person pitching live. Feb, does the startup needs to be already incorporated? What's the minimum TRL? Louise, do you want to answer this question maybe?
Yes, so Alex mentioned briefly, so you don't need to be incorporated because we've definitely had, fresh spin-offs from university who've just applied to the Global Challenge and go pretty far, actually. The minimum TRL means, so we are looking for startups that at least have gone past scientific validation. So beyond TRL 1 and 2, you can apply, and obviously it really depends on how far you've come with your technology. If you've already completed maybe a prototype, this is welcome as well. But yeah, this is definitely geared for early stage deep tech startups. So we encourage you to apply if you're already past TRL 1 and 2. And if you have more specific questions, you can let us know.
Then another question, are you guys looking for regional impact or global impact? So we are looking for impact. So depending on the industry or your technology, regional impact could work. So it really depends on your project and on your positive impact that you're making for this industry or for this region. So I'm going to answer live also a question from Andreas. How many companies are selected as Deep Tech Pioneer? So it depends. Each year it will depend on the project and on the startups. Usually it's around 700. But if we have a super great project, then we will not limit the number. So feel free to apply even if you're not 100% sure. Next question. If the startup already has contracted, does it mean it's not early stage anymore? Lois, can you answer this question maybe?
Yeah, I think just to understand better, Roxanne, I guess you're asking if you've had contracts with any potential clients or partners. So no, this doesn't prevent you from applying. So for us, it's if you have some early signs of traction like contracts, LOIs. That's actually a good thing. It shows that there's some kind of market acceptance of your technology, and so that's more a positive thing. And it doesn't mean that you're not in the early stages anymore. So we definitely encourage you to apply. And if you're like in the beginning stages of your very, very beginning stages of your commercialization, there could also still be benefit for you from this competition. So we definitely still encourage you to apply. Maybe to get Samantha's point of view on that, what stage were you in? I don't remember quite exactly, and if you have any feedback for them.
So we were at TRL 7. Okay. We actually we applied twice to Hello Tomorrow, and the second time we got in. The first time we were probably TRL 4 or 5, and then the second time was TRL 7. I don't know if that was the reason or not, or just the application got better. So it's hard to say. But I mean, I had spoke to some people there, and you had mentioned this where it was like you can be just early stage university projects. So I think it's more probably about the application and maybe less about like the TRL level.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's not dependent at all on the TRL level. It's just how well you fill the application and how much you prove. A good example of one that was very, very early stage that went really far is Lilium. So they're doing the electric vertical takeoff and landing airplanes. And they applied really when they were just young spin-offs of university. There was 2 of them in the team, and they managed to win the grand winner title. So it's quite depends on the technology, the impact, and how well you fill the application. So quite a few more questions.
Yes. So we have a question from Shelley. What should we emphasize throughout the application, traction or technical innovation? Maybe Samantha, because you did 2 applications, do you want to answer this question? What was your strategy when you applied?
We just tried to emphasize in each of the selection criteria on why, we were like good or better. So when we did traction, we spoke honestly about traction, but we tried to say chemical recycling in this space is something that's still it's not hit the market in a commercial sense. So, traction is still ongoing for everybody, but, we're getting there. In terms of technical innovation, we also have IP that we're not always able to talk about, but you can talk about it in a way that doesn't void your IP. So in this case, you have to, the best way to say it is you just have to write every section to the best. There's not, I think, one section, for example, traction versus technical innovation that's going to get you through. It just has to show that you understand your traction, you know where you're going, you have that, like, you have the responses maybe from customers, even if it's just an email that's like, yeah, this is great, we would use it, all the way up to like memorandum of understandings or like binding contracts. And then on the technical innovation side, yeah, you can say as much as you can without breaking IP, but try to emphasize why your technology is as good as it is, why it's like the best, why you're going to be better than the rest of the market.
Thank you. So I have another question for you, Samantha, from Feb. He's asking you if you already raised seeds fund when joining the Hello Tomorrow Global Challenge. What was your TRL when you joined, and how fast you were able to progress to TRL 7?
So we were in the process of raising the seed round. We kind of had like a first closing. So it was just before we came to Hello Tomorrow where we had a first closing, and then we did the full second closing afterwards. But while we were there, we still got to meet new investors that would potentially come into the round to close that second portion. So it had been a process. Prior to this, we had done a pre-seed. This was during COVID, but not connected to Hello Tomorrow. It was just kind of the first steps that we took outside of lab. And we got to TRL 7 last year. And so we did it in about, I think we started the project in 2018 to 2022. So it took us around 4 years, I think, to go from like bench, like from TRL like 0, it was just a thought, to bench scale reactions, to we call it a pilot plant demonstration where we were running tens of kilograms of different types of material to demonstrate the product and everything and process.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just add on really quickly to what Samantha just said, or I mean, extend to what she just said. But even if you're not fundraising currently, I would say it's still a good idea to apply now, because the timeline is, as you saw, it's like, okay, now, and then we have the event in March. And even if you're fundraising, let's say end of year next year, it's actually a good moment to plant those seeds, meet the investors, see what's out there. And then, because it takes time, Samantha probably can attest to that, it takes time to talk to them, to create the relationships, and then finally can lead to a potential funding.
Yeah, on like the investors that we got for our round, we have known them for probably over a year already. Like we already had a relationship with many of these guys, either because we were talking to them from conversations from the pre-seed round, or they had reached out to us. But I think everybody says, yeah, okay, it's like 3 to 6 months to fundraising, but especially with current economic situations that are happening, give yourself that buffer, go talk to them now, do the intro, follow up, because you never know when you need to all of a sudden raise funds and then like close the round so that the company can, either hire new people or yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Samantha. Maybe I will continue with another question for you from David. Can you estimate how many hours it takes to complete the online application? So it probably was different from the first time you applied and the second time.
I have no idea what the hours were. The video took the longest because we always tried to make sure that it was perfect. And I have a habit of talking way too fast. So it was always trying to slow it down and make it understandable. I would absolutely dedicate as much time as you think it's possible to get it to perfection. So I wouldn't cap it. If you read stuff online and they're like, oh yeah, it takes around 8 hours to do it. Don't take 8 hours if you feel like you could do it. If you need more time to get it done, like you really have to just make sure in your eyes what you submit is perfect.
Perfect, cool, thank you. So I will jump on the question that is related to that, and from Sophie, what do you expect in the video that we are supposed to add in the application? So the video is really for the jury to have a general point of view and general information about the startup and your project. So it's an additional information that you can add. It's not mandatory to have it, but it's always a good other way of showing your technology or your project. So it can be very different things. We've seen different kind of video depending on the projects. Samantha, can you talk a little bit more about yours?
I guess it would just follow the criteria is the best way to say it. Yeah, we did for the video, we just did the pitch. For us, we can't show much in terms of the technology because of IP. But we did try and show, like if we could show, for example, the outside of the reactor, we would do that, not the inside with the reaction happening. We followed the guidelines pretty much to what was asked. I don't think we did anything really special, to be completely honest. And I think when we filmed it, if I remember correctly, I think it was the more recent iPhone that we used. So it was not professional. It was like we did it ourselves. We did not put any money into it.
Cool, thank you. So yeah, just an additional thing that you can add to the application to make it stand out. So feel free to be also creative if you'd like to. Is there an application fee for the selected Deep Tech Pioneer, or is it only travel accommodation costs that need to be covered by the startups? So no, there is no fee to become a Deep Tech Pioneer. You will see that there are a lot of perks of joining the Deep Tech Pioneer community, depending on some event or some specific thing. There might be a small fee. Louis, maybe you want to get into the detail of those?
So the only thing that could be additional fee is for the Investor Day, but this is a really small fee that we ask from startups because it is an event that we organize really with B2B matchmaking sessions. But as a first-year Deep Tech Pioneer, you don't pay more than 100 euros for that. And everything else you access, we do it on a free basis. We send you a monthly newsletter as part of our community with various resources, such as acceleration programs that could be relevant for you, other events that are also relevant and really specific on deep tech. We also alert you to any new funds that we've noticed in the deep tech space. So everything generally we do for startups is for free, and there's definitely no application fee.
Thank you. So I have another question from Roxanne. How professional should be the pitch video? So as Samantha said, she didn't use any professional, so it doesn't have to be professional. You can do it yourself. It's no problem. This is not a criteria. You don't need to hire a professional video maker to do anything for this video. So next question, are there any resources where we can get feedback on a draft of our application? Well, for this question, unfortunately, we will not do any feedback on drafts. We receive a lot of application and we have limited resources, internal resources to do that. However, if you have any questions or if you're not sure about something, feel free to reach out to us. I'll be happy to answer any questions, to get on a call with you and to help you for the application as much as I can. And to discuss any specific thing regarding the application. So you can contact me directly. Another question. So regarding the video, we've already answered. So I have a question for you, Samantha, from Danai. What would you say makes Hello Tomorrow stand out compared to other networking or pitching events?
So they have the first day, which was like the full just investor networking. So you have a whole day just dedicated to, everybody has their table, right? So like investors A through Z will have a place that they sit. You get a number, you know where to find them. And then you can book like the time and go chat with them. Most of them typically stay on time. So that I think was one thing that I really liked, was this sort of speed dating, but it was done in such a way where it wasn't chaotic. I've been to a lot of startup events where they try and do speed dating and people go over, people don't show up. nobody answers the app. Everybody is using something else, and it doesn't work on your phone because you have a different type or something like this. But it was really easy to organize, communicate, and follow up with the investors in that day. So if you spend the entire day on one day focusing on the kind of meetings, then the next day you have for like the whole event. And then if you miss anybody, you can try and catch them there. You can try and follow up. The way that the conference was organized was, and I don't know if it's the exact same place every year. I assume it is, but it's like on 2 floors. So on the top floor, you have some startups, but also it's kind of like the main area where a lot of people are traveling through. It's easy to get like food. It's separated. And then downstairs is a whole area where all the startups are. So you can really spend your time walking around, talking to people, getting to know them. At the pitch event, it was surprisingly busy for everybody. Like I think most people had, if not a full room, but like then an almost full room. So the quality of the attendance that were there was really well and nice. The judges asked actually interesting questions, like they were invested in kind of what you were doing because they had an interest in it. So all of this, I think, really just makes it very efficient for such a short amount of time that you're there for. And the quality of the attendance. So the time that you're spending there, you don't feel like you're wasting time. You don't feel like I could go back to the room and do some emails. You're like, no, I actually want to stay here. I want to go find this person. I want to go watch the guys on the AI pitch because there's some really cool topics. It's one of the few events where I think I like enjoyed the entire day and always spent more time there than I expected at the end. So
cool. And so then I will jump to Jean-Élie's questions. And he's asking you, Samantha, if you've been to Collision in Toronto and how does Hello Tomorrow compares to this?
I have not been to Collision. I know some people that have, but they were more on like the quantum internet, quantum computing side of the world. They really enjoyed it. So I don't know if it's, it could be really good for that area. So I can't say much more than that. We have been to Slush though, and Slush was really good. I prefer the organization of Hello Tomorrow over Slush, if that's the best way to describe it.
Okay, thank you. So Jean-Élie, I will continue with your question. To be selected, we need to prove tech innovation, which is intrinsically confidential. What's your advice to find the right balance here? So obviously, if you have some confidential information that you do not want to share, do not share it on the application. It's okay. As long as you have any proof of your technology, KPI or any published article, that could work. I don't know, Samantha, if you have any recommendation on that, or if you had this situation when you did the application and you want to share your point of view.
Yeah, so we kept all of our tech more or less at a very high level. So the best way, so if you have stuff that is confidential, the best way you should describe it is if you were going to describe it to, for example, your parents. Like you don't have to go into that level where you're giving numbers or details that are significant to like a patent. But for example, when I talk to my parents about what we do, I'll just be like, oh yeah, we do chemical recycling of plastics. This is, we convert PET to the main monomers. We do it at room temperature, so we don't add heat or pressure. But I don't go into like, these are the chemicals we use. This is the reaction rate. Because depending on who reads the application, either they'll probably have an idea and you don't need to explain it, or they won't, and then you also don't need to explain it. So keep it at that high level, and I think you'll be fine.
Great, thank you.
Speaking of there was one question in the chat. I was just asking about the jury members who evaluates the startups. Maybe Alex, you can answer that.
Sure. So for the first round of evaluation to select the deep tech pioneers, we have our internal expert at Hello Tomorrow, which will screen all the application and we'll do the selection from different experts. And then for the second round to select the finalists, we have partners who will join the evaluations, along with some external jury experts as well in different fields. We also have some investors that we partner with who will look at the application. So a lot of different people will look at your application. Lois, do you want to add anything?
No, I mean, yeah, so there are other kinds of maybe experts would also be like accelerators, incubators, even previous founders that have a lot of experience in the field. So going back to what Samantha said, it's people that would know the field and that would more or less understand the value of your technology. So so also the question of, okay, what should you disclose? I think that there is a way to do that without disclosing anything that's confidential, or that you're afraid that you shouldn't share. You should definitely, if you have access and if you have the resources to contact a lawyer or consult with a lawyer, you can also double check to make sure you're not disclosing anything. But you can do so, like Samantha said, by showing maybe what are your advantages, like how do you do it better than your competitors. Any traction you show is also proof that it's been validated somehow by external parties. So I think that there's definitely ways to demonstrate that without disclosing any sensitive information.
I see a question also from Sébastien. Does the video could be subtitled in English if it's in French? So yes, of course, regarding the application, it's maybe something worth mentioning. The application should be filled in English because our experts are very internationals, and so English will be the common language and the easiest way to for us to evaluate. So yes, if you have any material that is in another language, if there can be subtitles or translation, that would be perfect. We have a question from Adam. How does Hello Tomorrow get revenue? Lois, do you want to maybe answer this question?
Yes, I can jump in. I've been here for quite some time at Hello Tomorrow, so I have more knowledge on that. So there are different ways we get revenue. We do have, of course, the events. So that's one way. So there's an entry fee for other actors to enter the events. So investors, corporates, some accelerators, they do have a fee to enter the event. So there's some ticket sales that contribute to revenues. There's also sales from maybe sponsorships at the event. So maybe other actors getting booths or speaking on stage. So that's part of it. For the Global Challenge side, we also have sponsors. So as you might have seen, we have, Solvay as a sponsor, L'Oreal, and they also do support our mission and what we're doing. So they sponsor our Global Challenge. Outside of that, a large majority, I would say, is definitely coming from another part of our activity at Hello Tomorrow, which we developed a few years ago, and that's consulting. So we do open innovation consulting, more so targeted for large corporations and institutions. So also helping them with any deep tech questions they have or strategic questions in innovation.
Cool, thank you. I have questions from Berk. So the question about the video presentation, can it be like a live meeting session recorded on video, or should it be like a monologue, and how long should it be? So there is no specific way to do the video. If you have a meeting session recorded that you want to use and share with us on the application, feel free to use it. It doesn't have to be a pitch or anything. It can really be something additional that you bring to your application. Regarding the length, there is no limitation. However, I would recommend not to be too long. The application form is quite long already, and you will put a lot of information. So the jury member will have already a lot of things to read. So I would recommend to keep it quite short and only a few minutes, so that we get the main information on it. Samantha, maybe you want to like share like how long was your video and other details.
To be completely honest, I don't exactly remember. It was a while since we filmed it, and there's so much that's happened in between. I know that for the presentation part, I think we had slides, and we showed the slides with my voice dubbed over. So it wasn't like just a meeting, a recorded meeting or anything like this. We did it, I think, on Google, and then we just recorded the screen. And then the rest was either snippets of parts of the process that we could show, or photos that we had from like specific stuff with an explanation. But yeah, it wasn't overly complicated, and it was just done through like a screen recording. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, for the video, really, you can. Everyone is doing something different, and there are different contents for the videos. It's really an additional information that you will give to your application. Next question: does startup profit is considered as funding, and does the funders should give their amount of investment in investor section? Correct me if I'm wrong, Luis, but for me, the startup profit is not considered as funding. You can give the amount of investment in the application so that we know which stage you are in.
Yeah, I mean, this is also up to you to disclose even the investment part. It's nice for us to know because as you know, we will help you later if you're selected with matchmaking with potential investors or other other interested parties. So it's nice for them to have this information, at least to know, okay, what stage are you in? Are you in seed, Series A? It makes it easier. But if you don't have that information, of course, you have no funding, okay, no problem. If you don't want to disclose it, this is also up to you, but it does help to have this information on our site.
We have questions from Sienna. Are the prices not equity funding? Yes, all the prices for the top 3 winners are non-equity funding, so you will just receive the
cash prize.
Money.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Let me see. We have a few more questions, but I think we ran through most of the key ones. Let's see. There was also some on the chat. It's hard to keep track because there's so many. Okay.
If we made a market validation of the concept but lacking POC from ASAF. Luis, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, yes. So I answered it on the chat. So essentially, yes, if you don't have your proof, your POC yet, so it's okay. Like I said, if you're still like in the process or a TRL 3 or 4, you can definitely still apply. You just need to maybe show a bit of proof of the market validation that you mentioned. Any literature, again, also this is helpful. If you have a clear business plan, this is also, of course, is going to help your application. Also, don't forget that with Traction, some of those can also come in the form of any awards that you've won, competition that you've participated in and maybe gotten as a finalist, like Samantha for the challenge. You can also be acceleration programs that you've done. So there are different ways to prove, again, this aspect of your idea being accepted by the market or by different actors external to your company.
Okay.
And I think we answered most of the questions. Let me see, there might be any one. Are you able to update your application if you enter more competitions between now and January? Do you want to answer, Alex? Yeah.
Sorry, can you repeat, because I didn't write
Oh, yeah, it's from Sienna. So it's, are you able to update your application if you enter more competitions between now and January?
Unfortunately not. Once you submit the application, we will start the evaluation. So by September 22nd, so there will be no updates of your application. So we encourage you to give as much information as possible, but yeah, unfortunately, we'll not be able to do any updates on any application.
Yes.
Is food tech considered deep tech by the judges? So we have a food and agriculture track, which means, well, depending on the technology of the food tech, it could be considered as deep tech. Yes, I recommend you to apply, and we definitely have a specific jury for this industry.
Yeah, there's also another one on mobility.
On mobility. We also have a track on mobility, and which you can apply for. It's definitely something that we are looking for in deep tech, and especially if the mobility sector has a lot of potential good impact and a lot of changes to be made.
Yeah, and I think so. Mobility, I mean, we don't have one named specifically with that name, but of course, it really depends on what the technology is behind. If it's, related to batteries for EVs, then it could potentially be in the energy track. Or if it's other things like, with LiDAR, then you could also maybe be in the industry and machines. So for the tracks, just keep in mind that this is a guide. Many of you, like Samantha, could have chosen probably, I don't know, environment. She could have been in industrial biotech. The idea is to choose the track that you think you fit best in. If later on we see on our side as we're evaluating that you actually have a better chance of being selected as a finalist in another track, we'll suggest that you move into a different track and then let you know about that. But so don't be afraid of choosing the track, and it doesn't mean you're stuck there forever. We will also help to make sure that you have the best chance of succeeding. And
I think we've answered everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let you go. I'll go to the end of your slides because I clicked through that.
Anyway, if you have any other questions that we have not answered tonight, feel free to contact us directly. We're happy to exchange by email or to do a quick call if needed, if anyone has specific questions regarding their own application. So as a reminder, the deadline is September 22nd. But again, I highly recommend that you don't wait until the last minute to finish your application. It's important to have an early look at the questions first and to have enough time to complete it and review it if needed. Samantha, maybe you have one last thing that you want to share, or regarding
final
the
words of
application?
advice.
Just enjoy it. It will seem overwhelming, but if you go unprepared, you're going to have a great time. Just enjoy everything. Go to the side events, go to the after parties. It's really, really great.
Great. Well, thank you for everything and for sharing all of this experience with all of us. Also, so if you want to make sure not to miss any updates from us, we'd encourage you to subscribe to the Core for Startups newsletter. We share like all the relevant online events, opportunities, articles, resources that can help you with fundraising and growing your startup and more. So do not hesitate to subscribe to it. And then we wish you good luck for the application, and we are looking forward to seeing all of your application. And then thank you again, Samantha and Luis, for joining this session with us tonight.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you.